In the shadow of the loess-covered highlands of the Yellow River Valley, where windswept plateaus cradled the seeds of one of China's most enduring civilizations, a remarkable discovery in 1977 near Baoji in Shaanxi Province unveiled the depth of the Zhou Dynasty's origins, as archaeologists unearthed the Fengchu site, a sprawling complex of rammed earth foundations and oracle bones inscribed with the earliest known Chinese script, dating to around 1050 BCE, which offered a tangible glimpse into the formative moments of a dynasty that would shape Chinese culture for nearly 8 centuries. The Zhou, emerging from the semi-mythical haze of the late Shang period, were initially a pastoral people from the western reaches of modern-day Shaanxi, their rise intricately tied to the fertile Wei River Valley, where the interplay of environmental abundance and strategic geography fostered the development of settled agriculture and bronze metallurgy, evidenced by the intricate ritual vessels found at sites like Qishan, whose typological evolution from Shang prototypes suggests a gradual cultural synthesis rather than abrupt conquest. The traditional narrative, preserved in later texts like the Shiji by Sima Qian, recounts the Zhou's ascent under King Wen, whose virtuous leadership and strategic alliances culminated in the overthrow of the Shang at the Battle of Muye around 1046 BCE, a pivotal event corroborated by oracle bone inscriptions from Anyang that hint at Shang anxieties about Western tribes. This transition, often framed as the mandate of heaven, marked a profound ideological shift, introducing a moral justification for rulership that would underpin Chinese political philosophy for millennia, though archaeological evidence, such as the continuity of bronze working techniques across the Shang-Zhou divide, suggests a more complex process of cultural amalgamation. The early Zhou, establishing their capital at Haojing near modern Xi'an, developed a sophisticated feudal system known as Fengjian, where land was granted to vassals in exchange for loyalty and military service, a structure reflected in the distribution of fortified settlements along the Wei and Yellow rivers, whose rammed earth walls and moats, excavated at sites like Feng and Hao, attest to the dynasty's early preoccupation with territorial control and defense against nomadic incursions from the north. Socially, the Zhou were organized hierarchically, with a warrior aristocracy presiding over agrarian communities, their lives documented in bronze inscriptions like those on the De Yuding, a massive tripod vessel from 1054 BCE that details land grants and ritual obligations, revealing a society bound by reciprocal duties and ancestor worship, practices that permeated every level from the royal court to village shrines. Economically, the Zhou leveraged the fertile lush soils to expand millet and wheat cultivation, supplemented by trade networks that stretched as far as the Yangtze River, as evidenced by jade artifacts from southern cultures found in Zhou tombs at Lingtai, suggesting long-distance exchange mediated by riverine routes. Religiously, the Zhou maintained Shang traditions of oracle bone divination while elevating the worship of Tian, heaven, a deity whose abstract nature is reflected in the austere designs of ritual bronzes, which gradually replaced the zoomorphic motifs of the Shang with geometric patterns, a shift observable in assemblages from the Zhouyuan region. Militarily, the early Zhou faced constant threats from northern and western tribes, prompting the construction of defensive outposts, such as those at Zhangjiapo, where excavations uncovered weapons caches and chariot fittings, indicating a martial culture that relied heavily on chariotry, with horse burials revealing the importance of equine resources. By the 10th century BCE, the Zhou had consolidated their rule over a vast territory, stretching from the Shandong Peninsula to the Gansu Corridor, their authority cemented through a network of vassal states whose loyalty was maintained through ritual exchanges and marriage alliances, a system that would define the Western Zhou period until its gradual unraveling in the 8th century BCE. As the Western Zhou period unfolded, the dynasty's political and cultural achievements reached their zenith. Driven by a sophisticated administrative system that balanced centralized authority with regional autonomy, a structure illuminated by the discovery of over 20,000 bronze inscriptions, such as the Shichang Pan from 900 BCE, which records genealogies and royal decrees, offering unparalleled insight into the bureaucratic mechanisms that sustained Zhou hegemony. The Fengjian system, characterized by enfeoffed lords governing semi-independent territories, was underpinned by a complex hierarchy of titles and obligations, with major vassal states like Jin, Qi, and Yan acting as regional power centers, their capitals fortified with rammed earth walls, as seen at Xufu, where archaeological surveys have mapped extensive urban layouts indicative of planned settlement patterns. These vassal states were not merely administrative units but also cultural hubs, where local elites commissioned bronze vessels, such as the famous Guiji by Pan, whose inscriptions detail military campaigns and ritual feasts, reflecting a shared elite culture that bound the Zhou world together. Economically, the Western Zhou saw significant advancements in agricultural productivity, facilitated by innovations like the iron plowshare, first evidenced in archaeological contexts around 900 BCE at sites like Luoyang, which allowed for deeper tillage and expanded arable land, supporting a growing population estimated at several million by the 9th century BCE. Trade networks flourished, connecting the Zhou heartland with distant regions, as seen in the distribution of cowrie shells from the Indian Ocean found in tombs at Beiyao, suggesting maritime or overland trade routes through intermediary cultures like the Ba and Shu in the southwest. Socially, the Zhou aristocracy maintained strict hierarchies, with sumptuary laws dictating burial practices, as evidenced by the graduated sizes of tombs at Zhangjiapo, where high-ranking nobles were interred with chariots and sacrificial victims, while lower elites received simpler burials, a practice that underscores the rigid social stratification documented in texts like the Zhouli. Religiously, the veneration of ancestors remained central, with elaborate rituals conducted at ancestral temples, whose architectural remains at Fengchu reveal large-scale platforms and altars, while oracle bones from Zhouyuan indicate continued reliance on divination to guide state decisions, though the Zhou increasingly emphasized moral governance over shamanistic practices. Militarily, the Zhou faced persistent threats from nomadic groups like the Xianyun, whose incursions are recorded in inscriptions like the Duoyuding, which describes a campaign in 823 BCE involving thousands of chariots and infantry, supported by archaeological evidence of fortified outposts along the northern frontier. Technologically, the Zhou excelled in bronze metallurgy, producing vessels of unprecedented size and complexity, such as the Kongho Gui, whose intricate designs reflect advances in casting techniques, while the introduction of iron tools, evidenced by finds at Changzikou, marked a significant technological transition. By the late 9th century BCE, the Western Zhou had achieved a cultural and political apogee, their influence extending through diplomatic marriages and tribute systems, as seen in the exchange of jade and silk with southern states like Chu, whose early capitals at Shaanxi yield artifacts blending Zhou and local styles, signaling the dynasty's role as a cultural unifier. The Western Zhou's territorial expansion and cultural influence were not without challenges, as internal divisions and external pressures began to strain the Fengjian system by the late 9th century BCE, a period marked by increasing regional autonomy and the gradual erosion of central authority, a process illuminated by archaeological evidence from sites like Tianmatsuzuan, where the state of Jin's growing independence is reflected in its massive necropolis and distinct ceramic assemblages. The Zhou kings, ruling from Haojing, relied heavily on their vassals to maintain order, but the proliferation of regional powers, each with its own military and economic resources, created tensions that are evident in inscriptions like the Yuding, which records disputes over land grants and tribute obligations, suggesting fissures in the feudal compact. Economically, the Zhou continued to thrive through agricultural surplus and trade, with evidence of large-scale granaries at sites like Qishan, where carbonized millet remains indicate storage capacity sufficient to support urban populations, while trade with nomadic groups introduced new materials like lapis lazuli, found in elite tombs at Baoji, pointing to connections with Central Asian cultures. Socially, the period saw increased social mobility among the lower aristocracy, as evidenced by the proliferation of smaller bronze vessels in regional cemeteries, suggesting a broadening of elite status, though this also fueled competition among vassal states, as seen in the lavish burials at Shangkunling, associated with the state of Guo. Religiously, the Zhou maintained their focus on Tian and ancestor worship, with major temples at Zhongzhou hosting grand rituals, their scale attested by the discovery of sacrificial pits containing cattle and human remains, a practice that declined as moral philosophies began to take root, influenced by texts like the Book of Odes, which emphasize ethical governance. Militarily, the Zhou faced mounting threats from the Rong and Di tribes, whose raids disrupted northern trade routes, as documented in the Shijia Pan, which describes a defensive campaign in 816 BCE, supported by archaeological finds of arrowheads and armor at frontier sites like Yulin. Technologically, the Zhou continued to innovate, with advances in ironworking, evidenced by the discovery of iron swords at Liuhu, and improvements in chariot design, reflected in the standardized fittings found across Zhou cemeteries, which enhanced military mobility. Culturally, the Zhou fostered a shared identity through standardized rituals and writing systems, as seen in the uniformity of bronze inscriptions across vassal states, though regional variations in pottery, such as the distinct glazes of Yan ceramics, highlight local adaptations. By the 8 atrographical evidence from the Haojing ruins, where collapsed walls and burnt layers indicate a sudden and violent end to the western Zhou capital, forcing King Ping to relocate eastward to Luoyang in 771 BCE, a move that ushered in the Eastern Zhou period and fundamentally altered the dynasty's structure, setting the stage for the fragmentation of central authority and the rise of competing states. The transition to the Eastern Zhou, marked by the establishment of the capital at Luoyang, was a period of profound transformation, as the dynasty's weakened central authority gave way to the Spring and Autumn period, characterized by the rise of powerful vassal states like Qi, Jin, and Chu, whose political and military dominance is vividly documented in archaeological finds from their respective capitals, such as Linzi, where excavations have revealed massive city walls and palatial complexes indicative of urban sophistication. The Fengjian system, already strained in the late Western Zhou, began to fracture as regional lords asserted greater autonomy, a process reflected in the increasing diversity of bronze vessel styles, with states like Qin developing distinct forms, such as the Qin Gonggui, whose inscriptions emphasize local lineage over royal allegiance. Economically, the Eastern Zhou saw continued agricultural growth, with the adoption of crop rotation and irrigation systems, evidenced by canal remains at Yanshi, which supported denser populations and fueled the growth of urban centers, while trade networks expanded, as seen in the distribution of silk textiles found in Chu tombs at Mazhan, suggesting connections with Central Asian and Southern cultures. Socially, the period was marked by increased stratification, with a burgeoning merchant class emerging alongside the traditional aristocracy, as evidenced by the proliferation of luxury goods like lacquered wood and jade ornaments in burials at Shaanxi, reflecting a shift toward conspicuous consumption. Religiously, the Zhou kings maintained nominal authority over rituals, but regional states developed their own cultic practices, with Chu's elaborate shamanistic traditions, documented in tomb texts from Baoshan, blending Zhou ancestor worship with local deities, a synthesis also visible in the iconography of bronze mirrors. Militarily, the Spring and Autumn period was defined by interstate warfare, with chariot-based armies giving way to larger infantry forces, as seen in the mass burials of soldiers at Shaanxi, where skeletal remains bear evidence of blade wounds, while inscriptions like the Chen Ho Yinzi Ding record alliances and conflicts among states. Technologically, the Eastern Zhou saw significant advances in iron metallurgy, with cast iron tools and weapons, such as those found at Homa, enabling more efficient agriculture and warfare, while standardized coinage, like the spade-shaped bronzes from Qi, facilitated trade and economic integration. Culturally, the period fostered philosophical developments, with thinkers like Confucius emerging in response to social upheaval, their ideas preserved in texts like the Analects, which were shaped by the political fragmentation evident in archaeological records of competing state capitals. Interactions with neighboring cultures intensified, with artifacts like Scythian-style daggers in Qin tombs at Lixian indicating steppe influences, while southern states like Wu and Yu developed maritime trade, as seen in the bronze ship models from Suzhou. By the mid-6th century BCE, the Zhou king's authority was largely ceremonial, with real power residing in the hands of regional lords, whose fortified cities and independent armies, documented in sites like Ciufu and Jiangling, set the stage for the Warring States period, a time of even greater conflict and transformation. The Warring States period, spanning the 5th to 3rd centuries BCE, was a time of intense political fragmentation and military innovation, as the Zhou dynasty's nominal rule was overshadowed by the rise of 7 major states, Qin, Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Wei, and Zhao, whose capitals, such as Xianyang and Linzi, have yielded archaeological evidence of massive fortifications and industrial complexes, reflecting their economic and military power. The period's political dynamics are captured in inscriptions like the Zhongshan Wangding, which details interstate diplomacy and conquests, while archaeological surveys of battle sites, such as Chongping, where mass graves contain thousands of skeletons, attest to the scale of warfare, with armies numbering in the tens of thousands. Economically, the warring states saw unprecedented growth, driven by advances in agriculture, such as the widespread use of iron plows and ox-drawn tillage, evidenced by finds at Luoyang, which increased yields and supported urban populations, while market systems emerged, as seen in the standardized weights and measures from Qi tombs. Trade flourished, with silk and lacquerware from Chu, found in tombs as far north as Inner Mongolia, indicating extensive commercial networks, while cowrie shells and bronze coins from Wei suggest monetized economies. Socially, the period was marked by fluidity, with meritocratic reforms in states like Qin, where inscriptions from Yunmeng document legal codes that rewarded military and agricultural service, challenging traditional aristocratic hierarchies. Religiously, the warring states saw a diversification of beliefs, with Taoist and legalist philosophies gaining traction, as evidenced by bamboo texts from Guadian that articulate early cosmological ideas, while traditional Zhou rituals persisted in royal ceremonies at Luoyang. Militarily, innovations like crossbows, evidenced by trigger mechanisms found at Xiufu, and cavalry units, reflected in horse burials at Zhongshan, transformed warfare, enabling rapid campaigns and sieges, as seen in the rammed earth fortifications at Handan. Technologically, the period was a high point for Chinese metallurgy, with high-tin bronze swords from Chu, analyzed through metallography, revealing advanced quenching techniques, while hydraulic engineering, such as the Dujianjian irrigation system, supported agricultural expansion in Qin. Culturally, the warring states fostered a vibrant intellectual scene, with philosophical schools competing to influence state policy, their ideas preserved in texts like the Zhuangzi, while artistic achievements, such as the intricate lacquerware from Mawangdui, reflect a synthesis of regional styles. Interactions with nomadic groups intensified, with Xiongnu artifacts like belt buckles found in Yen tombs, indicating both conflict and trade, while southern states like Yu developed maritime technologies, evidenced by shipyard remains at Guangzhou. By the late 3rd century BCE, the state of Qin, under figures like Shang Yang, began to dominate, its bureaucratic efficiency and military reforms, documented in legal texts from Shuhudi, paving the way for its eventual unification of China in 221 BCE, effectively ending the Zhou dynasty's nominal rule. The decline of the Zhou dynasty was a gradual process, driven by the cumulative pressures of internal fragmentation and external competition, as the once unified feudal system gave way to the hegemonic ambitions of regional states, a transformation vividly illustrated by the archaeological record of Qin's capital at Xianyang, where massive palace foundations and administrative seals reflect a centralized bureaucracy that eclipsed Zhou authority. The Zhou kings, relegated to a ceremonial role in Luoyang, maintained ritual functions, but their influence waned as states like Chu and Qi developed independent cultural identities, evidenced by the distinct iconography of Chu bronzes at Juliandan, which blend Zhou motifs with southern shamanistic elements. Economically, the late Zhou period saw continued growth, with large-scale iron production at sites like Mianqi, where slag heaps and furnace remains indicate industrial-scale metallurgy, supporting both agricultural and military needs, while trade networks extended to Central Asia, as seen in the jade and glass beads from Qin tombs at Baoji. Socially, the period was marked by upheaval, with peasant uprisings and social reforms, such as those in Zhao documented in inscriptions from Homa, reflecting tensions between traditional elites and emerging classes, while sumptuary laws, evidenced by the standardized burials at Zhongshan, attempted to maintain social order. Religiously, the Zhou's traditional rituals were overshadowed by philosophical schools, with Confucian academies at Xiufu, supported by archaeological evidence of inscribed bamboo slips, promoting ethical governance, while Taoist texts from Mawangdui articulate a retreat from worldly ambition. Militarily, the warring states period culminated in Qin's conquests, with mass burials at Chongping revealing the brutality of campaigns, while fortifications like the early Great Wall segments in Yen, documented through satellite imagery, highlight defensive strategies against nomadic incursions. Technologically, the period saw advances in siege warfare, with battering rams and catapults, inferred from textual references and tool marks on city walls at Linzi, while agricultural innovations, such as the seed drill, increased productivity, as evidenced by field patterns at Yanshi. Culturally, the late Zhou was a period of synthesis, with regional styles merging into a broader Chinese cultural framework, as seen in the standardized script reforms of Qin, preserved in inscriptions from Yunmeng, which laid the groundwork for imperial unification. Interactions with neighboring cultures, such as the Xiongnu and Yu, intensified, with artifacts like bronze mirrors from Chu tombs showing steppe influences, while maritime trade expanded, evidenced by anchor stones from Yu ports. By 221 BCE, Qin's victory over the last Zhou holdouts marked the dynasty's end, with the first emperor's unification erasing the Zhou's political legacy, though their cultural and philosophical contributions endured in the emerging imperial order. The archaeological rediscovery of the Zhou dynasty began in earnest in the 20th century, with excavations at sites like Zhouyuan and Haojing yielding a wealth of material evidence that has reshaped our understanding of this formative period, as the discovery of over 100,000 oracle bones and bronze inscriptions has provided a direct window into Zhou governance, religion, and society, challenging earlier reliance on later texts like the Zhuozhuan. The Fengchu site, excavated in the 1970s, revealed the earliest Zhou administrative complex, with rammed earth foundations and ritual platforms, while the discovery of the Tianmatsutuan necropolis in Shaanxi, associated with the state of Jin, uncovered thousands of artifacts, including bronze bells and jade ornaments, that illuminate the material culture of regional elites. Scientific methods, such as radiocarbon dating of wooden beams from Zhangjiapo tombs, have refined the chronology of the Western Zhou, placing key events like the Battle of Muye around 1046 BCE with greater precision, while isotopic analysis of skeletal remains from Beiyao has revealed dietary patterns, indicating a reliance on millet and limited protein sources among commoners. Ceramic studies, particularly of the proto-porcelain wares from Yukils at Xixi, highlight technological transitions, with typological analysis showing a shift from Shang-style cord-marked pottery to glazed stoneware by the Eastern Zhou. Metallurgical analysis of bronze vessels, such as those from the Guoji by Pan, has revealed sophisticated alloying techniques, with tin ratios optimized for durability, while iron tools from Liuhu show early quenching methods that improved hardness. Environmental studies, using pollen analysis from loess cores in the Wei River Valley, indicate a wetter climate during the Western Zhou, supporting agricultural expansion, while later aridification, evidenced by sediment records, may have contributed to economic stress in the Warring States period. Scholarly debates, such as those surrounding the Zhou's origins, pit the traditional narrative of a Western migration against archaeological evidence of local development, with sites like Qishan showing continuity with pre-Zhou cultures. Excavations at regional capitals, like Ciufu and Jiangling, have uncovered evidence of urban planning, with grid layouts and drainage systems, while inscriptions from the Shichang Pan provide genealogical records that corroborate textual accounts of Zhou kingship. The interplay of archaeological and historical evidence has also fueled discussions about the mandate of heaven, with some scholars arguing it was a later rationalization, while others see its roots in Zhou ritual practices, supported by oracle bone references to Tian. The rediscovery of Zhou material culture continues to evolve, with ongoing excavations at sites like Yanshi promising further insights into the dynasty's complex legacy. The Zhou dynasty's legacy is profound, shaping the philosophical, political, and cultural foundations of Chinese civilization, as the concept of the mandate of heaven, first articulated in Zhou inscriptions, became a cornerstone of imperial ideology, influencing governance models through the Han, Tang, and beyond, while the dynasty's feudal structures, documented in the bronze inscriptions of vassal states, laid the groundwork for China's bureaucratic traditions. The philosophical schools of the Eastern Zhou, particularly Confucianism and Taoism, emerged from the social and political upheavals of the period, their ideas preserved in texts like the Analects and Laozi, which continue to shape East Asian thought, while the Zhou's standardization of script and rituals, evidenced by the uniformity of bronze inscriptions across regions, fostered a shared cultural identity that persisted despite political fragmentation. Archaeologically, the Zhou's material culture, from the intricate bronzes of Haojing to the iron tools of Xianyang, reflects a trajectory of technological and artistic innovation that influenced subsequent dynasties, with the early adoption of iron metallurgy, seen in finds at Mianxi, setting the stage for industrial advancements in the Qin and Han periods. The dynasty's trade networks, evidenced by jade and silk artifacts in distant tombs, established patterns of exchange that connected China to Central Asia and beyond, contributing to the Silk Road's development. Socially, the Zhou's hierarchical structures, visible in the graduated burials at Zhangjiapo, informed later class systems, while their emphasis on ritual and morality, seen in temple remains at Fengchu, shaped Confucian ethics. Militarily, the Zhou's innovations, such as the crossbow and cavalry, documented in artifacts from Ciufu and Zhongshan, influenced warfare tactics for centuries, while their defensive strategies, like the early Great Wall segments in Yen, anticipated imperial fortifications. The Zhou's interactions with neighboring cultures, from the Xiongnu to the Yu, fostered a cosmopolitanism that enriched Chinese culture, as seen in the hybrid artifacts of Chu tombs, while their urban planning, evidenced by the grid layouts of Linzi and Ciufu, set precedents for imperial capitals. The dynasty's decline, marked by the rise of Qin, was not an erasure but a transformation, as Zhou cultural and philosophical contributions were absorbed into the imperial framework, a legacy that endures in China's historical consciousness. Modern research, supported by ongoing excavations and scientific analyses, continues to uncover the Zhou's contributions, revealing a civilization that bridged the mythical and historical, shaping the course of East Asian history. The rediscovery and study of the Zhou dynasty have been enriched by interdisciplinary approaches, combining archaeology, epigraphy, and scientific analysis to illuminate its complexities, with excavations at sites like Zhouyuan and Tianmatsucun providing a wealth of data that challenges and refines traditional narratives, while advanced techniques like DNA analysis of skeletal remains from Beiyao offer insights into population movements and ethnic diversity. Radiocarbon dating and dendrochronology have anchored the Zhou chronology, confirming key events like the fall of Haojing in 771 BCE, while isotopic studies of ceramics from Qishan reveal trade patterns and resource exploitation, with strontium ratios indicating local and imported materials. Metallurgical studies, such as those on the Kongho Gui, have detailed the Zhou's mastery of bronze casting, with microanalysis showing precise control over alloy compositions, while iron artifacts from Homa demonstrate early experimentation with steel production. Environmental reconstructions, using lake sediment cores from the Yellow River Valley, highlight climatic shifts that influenced agricultural productivity, with wetter conditions in the western Zhou giving way to drought in the Warring States period, potentially exacerbating social tensions. Scholarly debates persist over issues like the Zhou's origins, with some arguing for a steppe influence based on chariot burials at Zhangjiapo, while others emphasize indigenous development, supported by continuity in ceramic typologies at Qishan. The interplay of textual and archaeological evidence has also fueled discussions about the Zhou's political ideology, with inscriptions like the Deyuding suggesting a moral framework that prefigures Confucian thought, while oracle bones from Zhouyuan indicate a reliance on divination that waned in later periods. Excavations at regional capitals, such as Linzi and Shaanxi, reveal the diversity of Zhou material culture, with Chu's lacquerware and Qin's iron tools reflecting regional specialization, while standardized inscriptions across states point to a shared elite culture. The Zhou's interactions with nomadic groups, evidenced by Scythian-style artifacts in Yen tombs, highlight their role as a cultural bridge, while maritime trade, seen in Yu ship remains, underscores their economic reach. The ongoing excavation of sites like Yanshi and the application of GIS mapping to settlement patterns continue to refine our understanding of Zhou urbanism and territorial organization, offering new perspectives on their legacy. The Zhou dynasty's enduring significance lies in its role as a cultural and political crucible, forging institutions and ideas that shaped Chinese civilization for millennia. Its legacy preserved in the philosophical texts, ritual practices, and technological innovations that continue to resonate in modern China, a testament to a dynasty that transformed a fragmented landscape into a unified cultural tradition.